Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today I got a package from Retro Fighters. Now, I've done a bunch of videos on their stuff in the past, and I can't wait to talk about their newest thing. It'll be a lot of fun. But before we do that, though, if you guys could do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't done that already, and, of course, go into the description, check out the social media stuff, and follow me on all those things like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Patreon, Discord, all that sort of stuff. I always appreciate that. Now, with that out of the way, oh, and check out the new Flying and Eating channel. That stuff's a lot of fun. Now, with that out of the way, yes, we got a package here from Retro Fighters, which I've already kind of preemptively started opening. Yeah, this comes from them. They are a company that makes really cool controllers. I've done a bunch of videos on their stuff in the past. In full disclosure, they did send this to me absolutely for free for the purposes of review. And to be completely honest, I had no idea this was coming. But yeah, it appears they sent me 4 of them. So we'll go ahead and start opening them up and take a look. But yeah, as you can see, I've got a wide array of controllers from them already, which I've done individual videos on. And while I talk a little bit about their history and all that sort of stuff, and maybe a little bit of the history of this controller, I figured we could take them all out and make like a little pyramid of controllers. So we have one right there that is the green Defender, and we'll just keep the cycle ongoing. But like I said, I did do videos on a bunch of these already in the past. So here we go. We've got the black one. And if you want to check any of those out, by all means, you can do so. I'm betting based on the sticker that's on this one, this is probably the blue version of the controller. Yep, there it is. Blue. And finally, we have what I'm assuming is the standard gray edition, if I can figure out how to get into this one. This one's taped differently than the rest. Okay, let's see here. Cut through that line there. And there we go. Okay. Yes, there we have the gray one. So let me go ahead and make a little pyramid of sorts. Yeah, there you go. You have 4 controllers. You've got the blue, the green, you've got the black, and the traditional gray. Now, in case it isn't obvious based on those colors, this controller is specifically designed for the PlayStation or the PlayStation line. It works on the PS1, the PS2, the PS3, the PS Classic, though there's a bit of an asterisk with that one. It also works on the Nintendo Switch as well as PC. Officially, those are the platforms that are supported. It is USB, so theoretically you can do other platforms possibly, but they're not considered officially supported. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, like I said, I've got a bunch of these other ones here, done videos on them all, so I'll give you a little rundown before we talk about the newest thing. This one here is the Retro Fighters NES controller. Actually, ironically, I never did a video on this one. This is really cool, as is the Brawler 64, this is a wireless N64 controller, did a video on that. We have the Brawler Gen, which was really intended for the Genesis, but it actually functions with the Saturn as well. I loved it on the Saturn. I wasn't the biggest fan of it with the Genesis, but with the Saturn, I thought it was great. It was like a whole new way to play that console that just really opened it up. And of course, we have the Striker DC for the Dreamcast, which is also a really good controller. Now, they've got other ones I've done videos on, like the Duelist and all these other ones, but these are just some highlights just to kind of illustrate the point. Now, you might have noticed a theme, not only with that, but with these. They're all kind of the same basic ergonomic shape, and there's a reason for that. What essentially motivated Retro Fighters to make these type of controllers is they obviously love retro games and retro consoles, but over time, admittedly, our tastes in controllers specifically has kind of changed. It's basically evolved into everybody either thinks of the standard of being the PlayStation style controller or the Xbox style controller, kind of that wide body. So when you go back and play a lot of retro consoles, there's a lot of people who are like, I can't get behind those older controllers. Now, me personally, I didn't really have that problem, but I got to admit, they are capable of improving on things. Like, these are the ones I'm picking specifically because I've actually used them to replace the OGs. This is how I play the NES. This is how I play the N64. This is how I play the Saturn, not the Genesis, admittedly. And this is how I play the Dreamcast. I just love the way they did it. So they finally tackled the most obvious one, which was the PlayStation line, which they never had a chance to do before. So they had a Kickstarter for this thing, which I didn't know about, to be completely honest with you. But you know, it was obviously successful, and now it exists in our reality. And a huge shout out to them because they were cool enough to send me these for review. So what I'll probably do is open one up and show you guys it, and then like any wireless controller or wireless device like this that has a battery on board, you really should charge it for a while before actually using it. So we'll do our little unboxing. I'll take a break and go charge this thing, play with it for a while, and then come back with final thoughts. But let's see, which one should I go with? You know, at least for the purposes of the video. I think I'm gonna go with the black one. I can't help myself. You know, I like black stuff. But anyway, so let's go ahead and open it up. So they all basically should have the same type of content inside. You know, the controller, the dongle, the same particular manual. But we'll just use that one for our purposes here. I really like the look of this. It looks a lot like the Pro controllers for the Switch that Nintendo made. Except obviously PlayStation themed. But I'm excited about this because, like I said, these guys make good controllers. I've always been a big fan. I'll put the box up there and open it up. Here we go. We've got, there we go, it opens from the side. And we've got a few things. Gone are the days of the little bubble, like, they had like they used to have this plastic bubble type of thing you would sit the controller in. Now it's just kind of in the box. I actually kind of prefer this, to be honest. So we've got a few different things. First is a, oh, it actually says straight up you should charge it before using it. So they're aware of the same idea. So I guess make that official. If you buy one of these, before you start playing with it, go charge it first. That way the battery life is extended. It comes with a manual. Right there, which has a breakdown of a whole bunch of information on the controller and how to pair it and all that sort of stuff. Actually, the controllers on the manual match the color of the actual individual one you had. It would have been very easy for them to mass produce, you know, the different, just like one, and just put it in every single one. But they actually, you know, they went the extra mile. They made your controller color match your manual, which was nice of them to do. It has a whole bunch of information on how to pair things. And all that. So with the it's important to mention that it comes with a USB-C cable, which obviously the controller uses USB-C, which is great. Much more. I love that. I love USB-C. USB micro, I'm glad it's dead. I don't like it. But inside it has two little dongles. One is specifically for the PS1 and the PS2. Which looks like this. This one will also match the color of the controller. And then you have this kind of more generic gray one. This is actually USB, and that's how you would plug it into the PlayStation 3, the Switch, your PC, etc., or the PS Classic. These are, as I understand it, all of them are gray, and probably because they had mass-produced these particular shells, because I think this is the exact same one they used for, like, a few of the different controllers they've released. Like, I want to say the Duelist used this, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, maybe it's just a production cost issue. Either way, I don't really care about the color. It's just kind of nice when it matches. But anyway, yeah, so... Across the board, it should be pretty solid. I mentioned before there is an asterisk with the PS Classic. Specifically, it's one of those platforms where the analog support, the controller, sorry, the thumbsticks, does not function. And the reason is not anything to do with the controller. It's actually a limitation of the PS Classic itself. The way Sony designed it, they only enabled the D-pad functionality. It's possible if you hack that thing that maybe then it works, but either way that would not be officially supported by Retro Fighters officially. Maybe unofficially it works. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't even have a PS Classic, so whatever. We're going to be using it exclusively on the PS1, the PS2, and the PS3, and I'll give my thoughts on those. I mean, it's cool that it works on a Switch. That's not how I'm going to play the Switch. I don't game on PC, and I don't own a PS Classic. So, yeah, but it has a bunch of information about that. Pairing it is supposed to be comically easy. It basically once it's in, at least in the PS1 or the PS2, you basically turn it on. This will be powered by the console, and then once you just press A on this, it pretty much should sync immediately. That's like how the Brawler 64 worked. USB ones like the PS3 should also be relatively similar process, but again, it has information in the event that you need that. The back also contains a little bit more information, some of the more technical stuff, in case anybody out there is curious. It uses specifically 2.4 gigahertz wireless technology to sync with the device. It has pressure-sensitive buttons. It has turbo functionality, which is nice that these controllers tend to do. I don't tend to use that much, but that is in there. They claim it's comfortable and responsive analog sticks. We will check that in a minute. It does have built-in vibration feature, which is nice. So any game that was supporting that which was most games, for at least from PS2 onward, would have that, and PS1 was kind of a mixed bag because that's the generation in which it was invented. But anyway, it's built in. We already said what it's compatible with. It has a range of about 30 feet. So in most gaming setups, that should be totally fine. It has LED lights on it. It mentions it has a receiver, and of course it has a charging cable. So yeah, I really like the box too. It's nice little glossy there. But anyway, let's take a look at the controller, shall we? All right. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, this definitely feels like a Switch Pro controller. In fact, I'll show it next to one just so you guys can get a sense of that. But yeah, it's I believe the triggers I believe are analog, but the rest of it I'm not totally sure. I think they're digital, but I'm not totally sure. It feels really good. So I have to play with it for a while to really know, obviously. Oh, the binding button's on the back, by the way, in case you run into any sort of issues syncing it. It's back there. I like the face buttons. They have like this they draw you in type of thing. But at the same time, and I'm just throwing this out there, every one of the shapes, the crossbar, the circle, the square, the triangle, are all slightly different than the official one. And I think that's because Sony actually owns that look. So I think that it would technically be legal problems if they didn't slightly mutate this. So you obviously get what it's trying to express, but yeah, either way, it doesn't really matter. Home button and all that, in the event that you want to use it for, that probably works on the PS3, but more specifically, probably designed for the Switch. I like the D-pad a lot. Yeah, this is, we'll see. We'll play with it for a while. I actually am excited about this because I used to get so much crap for this when I was younger. I have never been that big of a fan of the PS1, PS2/PS3 controller design. I love the PS4 controller, and I think the PS5 controller is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, controller design ever made. But that first three, man, I always found it just kind of not that great because of what it really was. It was a Super Nintendo controller with sticks attached, and then eventually they had to kind of hobble on, the thumbsticks so that it could kind of do the vibration and be the DualShock thing. It just kind of felt like a growth. It didn't feel like it was really designed to be that way. It just kind of had to be. And I realize that's not how most people feel about that, and they love that controller. But do they really love the controller, or do they just love the console and the memories that are associated with it? Think about it. It's deep, whatever. Anyway, point is, I'm excited about this because that would be again, I'm going to play with it for a while, but in the event that I prefer this, that's going to be a huge upgrade for me. Okay, so I've been using this thing for a little while now, and it's time for final thoughts. Now, first impressions, honestly, pretty solid. It's a very comfortable controller. It feels well built. It feels well designed. It feels like they did this with a passion, and I genuinely appreciate that. I had a good time playing it. Just so you see this rainbow of consoles out here, this is just what I could fit on the table. I decided to run it with basically every PlayStation console I could. So I tested it with the PS1 that you see here, as well as the slim model, the PSONE, the PS2, the PS2 Slim, the various models of the PS3. I even tested it with the Japanese PSX, and if you don't know what this is, I did a whole video on it. You can test it out. It's a very, very, very bad version of the PS2, let's put it that way. But what does matter is that it worked with all of them. Now, so obviously for the PS1 and the PS2 stuff, I used the dongle that is required to connect to it. This was nothing. You plug it in, you press a button on the controller, and it syncs. And if it for some reason doesn't, you can press the syncing button on the back. But I never really had any issues as far as syncing the controller. One thing that's actually really cool about it is that it has 4 lights on it. 4 lights. Somebody's going to get the reference. And if you're using a PS1 or a PS2, it's smart enough to know which controller port it's plugged into. It'll light up either 1 or 2 automatically. The same will happen with the PS3, except that the PS3 is technically capable of 4 controllers, and either the 3rd or 4th light is technically able to activate at that point. Should, like we got the 4 controllers here, so if you were to set them up all on the PS3, then they would all, have different lights. You get the point. So it's smart enough to know to do that, which is awesome. And so yeah, in regards to the PS1 and the PS2, I really had no issues. What I ended up doing for all 3 platforms is that I picked out games I was already very familiar with, and I played them a lot just to make sure that my muscle memory was there and nothing ever really felt awkward or bizarre or oh, I missed that shot or whatever where I normally wouldn't have. That type of thing when you're kind of fine-tuning a controller. I really had nothing like that. Everything just seemed smooth. If anything, it felt better because I've never been the biggest fan of the PS1/PS2/PS3 controller, which I mentioned before. So this felt like a huge improvement in almost every way, in my opinion. But that said, it is not flawless. The issues I had with it, which were odd, only existed in the PS3. I had zero issues when using it in the PS1, PS2, or even the piece of junk PSX. What I did have, though, when playing the PS3, I didn't have issues in-game. I even went ahead and tried backwards compatibility, because this is the 60 gigabyte original launch model that is capable of playing all PS1, which every PS3 console can play PS1 games, but this one also plays uniquely PS2 games from a hardware, like, almost perfect perspective. So I wanted to make sure I could run all that stuff. When running PS3 games, no problem. For the majority of the time, when on the dashboard, the XMB, whatever you want to call it, is what it's called, the XMB, no problems there, really. There was one. It was odd, but we'll get back to it. PS1 games on this thing, no problem. But PS2, problem. So let's start with the XMB. So you know how on the PlayStation 3 XMB, you go left and right, but you can also go up and down. So I was like selecting games I wanted to go through on a hacked PS3, and as I'm cycling down, I'm just like pressing one at a time, and every once in a while, it would just kind of skip a bunch. It would just kind of just, and then like I would put the controller down and it would keep going, even though the controller was not doing anything. Now, what that would imply was there's some sort of issue with the down button getting stuck, but that never happened in game on any system I tried it on, including the PlayStation 3. It uniquely would only happen on the XMB, and if it only happened one time, I would have thought, okay, it was just a thing. But it happened a few times to the point where it's like, okay, there's something here. I don't know what it is, but there's something here. If that's your biggest problem, it's not that bad. But like I said, holding down in the games, I never had that particular issue. So just take it with a grain of salt, I guess. The other one that was more significant was playing PlayStation 2 games on the PS3. In short, it doesn't work. Basically, if you ever had access to one of these PS3s, when you start up any PS2 game on them, the controller disconnects, and then it asks you to press the PS button to resync. Now, this has the equivalency of a PS button, so in theory, it should function and resync, but it doesn't. The controller will go on, it will connect to the thing, and the PS3 will simply never recognize it as a controller, and I don't know why. It just doesn't function at all. I even tried a couple of tricks. I would unplug everything as far as like the dongle and the controller, reset everything, and try that. Didn't do anything. I would even use an actual PS3 controller to get past that screen, then turn that controller off, then turn this one on, and it still wouldn't do anything, even though each one had been separately recognized as controller one. I don't know. That's an observation. This isn't really a negative, it's just kind of a logical consequence, but I will throw it out there just so people are aware of it. Obviously, you have this USB dongle for, using this controller on a PS3. While obviously, if you had a standard PS3 controller and you were to plug it into a USB port, both of them would take up that port. However, on the standard model, you could disconnect that controller and it would remain synced to the console, whereas that is not possible with this particular controller, which makes sense. It requires the dongle. The only reason I even bring that up is because what that means is if you use this on a PS3, it's absolutely mandatory to use up a USB port. Now, if you're one of the early models with 4 ports, that's probably not a big deal. However, if you're using the later models that only have 2 ports, potentially, depending on what else you're connecting, if you have external devices like hard drives or flash drives or whatever it is, just be aware this will demand its own dedicated port, thus leaving you with only one. That's the only. So, like I said, the only issues I had with it are all PS3 related, not PS1 or PS2 related. So I can 100% recommend it for those consoles. For the PS3, I still like it. It's just that there's that asterisk there because it had, a couple of bugs, if you will. Or at least necessities in the case of the dongle. Now, I didn't bother with the Switch because, like, it's not how I'm going to play the Switch. I have the actual Pro Controller. As I said, it does work. PC gaming, I don't even do, and I don't have a PS Classic, unfortunately. But, again, PS Classic is the only one where the analog sticks will simply not function, at least officially. So there you go. That'll pretty much do it here. If you guys like this controller, if you want to check it out, and I do actually recommend it, the Defender is available at Castlemania Games. I'll put a link in the description. Ryan's an awesome guy, and he sells all sorts of great stuff, including this. So big shout out to him. I believe you could probably get it at like the Retro Fighters website as well if you want to do that. Either way, they're both licensed sellers, obviously. So whatever you prefer, I'll put the links there. Thank you very much to the guys at Retro Fighters for sending these to me. That was awesome of you guys to do. They certainly didn't have to. But I appreciate it all the same. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys can do me a favor, go into the description, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, all that sort of stuff. I appreciate that. Like the video, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't done that. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.